Ciao everyone, this is Nate on the Stone. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about Jakelin Caal. But before we get into that, just as a reminder that if you like videos about the culture, politics, and religion from a different point of view, then don't forget to subscribe to the channel and to ring the bell for notifications. Okay, I'll shoot straight with you, gang. This is not the video that I had planned on making for this week. I had a whole different video scripted, planned out, researched. But then the story about Jakelin broke, and the reactions that I read on social media and on the internet just made me realize that I had to take the opportunity to throw in my 2 cents for whatever it might be worth. So we're talking about Jakelin this week, and then next week, don't worry, the other video will be uploaded. In case you're unfamiliar with the story, here it is in a nutshell. Jakelin Caal was a 7-year-old Guatemalan girl who was brought illegally into the United States by her father Neri, who was also an illegal alien from Guatemala. The group that they were traveling with was stopped by the Border Patrol in New Mexico, and they were taken to a Border Patrol detention center where little Jakelin started having seizures and she died. Almost immediately, Ideologues started using her death as a political tool. Future Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi said in a tweet, quote, "We have a moral responsibility to ensure all children are treated with decency and compassion. My heart goes out to the father and family of Jakelin Caal, the young girl who died after being taken into custody by the Border Patrol." And she followed it up with this tweet saying, quote, "We must honor the spark of divinity in every person. We have a moral responsibility to ensure all children are treated with decency and compassion. The new Congress will investigate this horrific tragedy to ensure the safety and security of every child." And Nancy Pelosi is not the only one to be doing this. The media got on board with the Washington Post, to use one example, headlining their story that a 7-year-old migrant girl had died while in Border Patrol custody. Social media exploded with the hashtag Justice for Jakelin trending on places like Twitter. The singer Lauren Jarugui compared her death to murder and said that this was further proof that ICE needed to be abolished. The National Immigration Law Center demanded that the public needed to know exactly how she died. And the Women's March, in a tweet, made Jakelin's face the face of their movement. Not to make light of this story, not to make light of this tragedy, but reading these stories, reading these reactions, you'd almost get the feeling that the Border Patrol, ICE, the Trump administration, America in general, was the personification of Grand Moff Tarkin from Star Wars, who saw this little 7-year-old girl and just turned around and said, "Terminate her immediately." As is becoming more and more common, the headlines and the reactions don't give us the complete picture. While it's technically true that Jakelin died while under Border Patrol custody, since she was part of the group that was detained by the Border Patrol, the headlines make it sound as if she was suffering and then died in the detention center and calloused patrolmen just walked over her body. In actuality, when she started having seizures, medical personnel were immediately called in. She was flown to a hospital in El Paso. She was revived twice in the ER before finally dying of cardiac arrest. The Border Patrol and the American personnel involved in this story did everything that they could to save Jakelin's life, a fact that was acknowledged by her dad, Jakelin Caal, who said in a statement that the Border Patrol did everything that they could to save his daughter's life. Jakelin's body just gave out. It was worn out, which can happen when you travel from the Alta Verapaz department of Guatemala to New Mexico, which is a journey of roughly 2,000 miles. But the thing that really boiled my blood was the swiftness with which Ideologues took Jakelin's body and turned it into a pawn for their own ends. I'm sorry, Congressman Pelosi, but a politician, an ideology, and a political party that defends Planned Parenthood, an organization that kills hundreds of thousands of children a year, claims that killing children can actually be a positive good, cannot just turn around on a dime and say that the sanctity of every child's life needs to be acknowledged and protected. Not only that, but it's the height of callousness to take a death, any death, I don't care whose death it is, but especially the death of a little girl, of a little child, and turn it into a political hammer. Now, if you think that the Southern American border is a dystopian nightmare because of the Border Patrol, we're going to disagree, but we can discuss why you think that way. If you think that ICE needs to be abolished, we're not going to agree on that point, but we can discuss the merits of that idea. But using the corpse of a little girl to make a purely emotional argument for why the Border Patrol is evil, for why ICE has to be abolished, is disingenuous and wrong. Not only because it takes the corpse of a little girl and uses it as a pawn, not only because it dismisses several pertinent facts to the case, but because it shuts down an argument before an argument can even start. Someone holds up the corpse of a little girl and says, this is the reason why ICE needs to be abolished. Someone disagrees, and boom! Instantly, they're transformed from a person with a different point of view to a monster who not only likes it that a 7-year-old died, but wants more children to die. But there is something else as well. Ideologues continue to refuse to secure the southern border. President Trump's wall remains a gleam in his eye with the threat of a government shutdown over the issue now. Money is continually appropriated for fencing and for securing the border, even though, according to the law as it stands today, those things should have already been done. Furthermore, as per David Horowitz, Congress has refused to end the catch and release policy, which means that the drug cartels of Mexico and Central America have used this to their advantage. They've started using groups of illegal aliens as pawns for their smuggling. The cartels direct groups of illegal aliens to specific points in the border, meaning that the Border Patrol has to expend a lot more time and manpower on those points, leaving the rest of the border less secure, which allows the drug cartels to bring their shipments north into the United States. Horowitz writes that this has led to a record amount of drug flow into the United States, both opioid and non-opioid, drugs that are going to ruin lives. To recap, drug enterprises are exploiting the desperation and greed of people to make their own profits, and American leaders won't take the steps to stop this because they are committed to their own ideology. And it doesn't matter if the group that Jakelin and her dad were with was directed by a drug cartel or not. The very fact that the whole world knows that the southern border is open for anyone to come in, a fact that was reiterated by the UN this past October when it said that migrants had a legal right to enter the United States, means that people like Jakelin Caal will continue to trek thousands of miles into the United States, putting themselves and any children that they bring with them at risk. Everyone agrees that we need to be compassionate and merciful towards migrants and to immigrants, but holding out the promise of a porous border, of a life in a country where you don't even have to become a citizen or even a legal immigrant, that is not compassion. That is false compassion, which is at best wrong-headed and at worst an ideological calculation. People say that they want justice for Jakelin. I want justice for Jakelin, but that justice is only going to have a chance of succeeding if the southern border is secured, so that the cartels will not be able to exploit human desperation and greed in this one circumstance for their own profit, and so that immigrants will not risk their lives and the lives of their children to come into the country illegally. Securing the southern border is the most humane action that we can take for everyone, Americans and immigrant alike. But what say you? Is securing the southern border the just thing to do, or is the just thing allowing everyone to come in so that people can improve their lives in the United States? As always, let me know what you all think down in the comment section below. Well, that about wraps it up for this time, gang. As always, if you like the video, whether you agree with me or not, don't forget to give it a like. It really does help me. And subscribe to the channel and ring the bell for notifications, because I post new videos like this every Tuesday and you won't want to miss them. And speaking of next Tuesday, since next Tuesday is Christmas Day, next week's video will be posted on Monday, December 24th. Thank you as always for watching, and I will see you all again here next week on Top of the Stone. Ciao.